You can clap if you want to in the back. I was about to say, we got people like wanting to clap. We usually add the claps in post. We don't have to with that.
Facts.
What is up and welcome to another episode of the Miseducation of Music. You are here with J-Treb as always, but today I have a special guest in the building. I have a singer, a songwriter, and the first ever guest from out of town on my show. I have your friend Grace in the building, man. What's up?
Hello.
You can clap if you want to in the back. I was about to say, we got people like wanting to clap. We usually add the claps in post. We don't have to with that.
Facts. The studio audience coming in clutch. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, look, you were the first person who's like contacted me from out of town and wanted to come on the show. This was so awesome to put together. Like, I love to tell people my first exposures, and I was actually put on through Zach's story. Zach was sharing some of your music one time, and I was like, who is this? I need to find out. I think I followed you that day, and then I put it on my list because I was like, oh, she's not in the state though. I don't know if we'll ever get an episode. And then you reached out and you said you were doing a show, and it was just perfect timing.
Yes.
So I'm so glad.
Honestly, the stars aligned, having everyone here and, finally being able to meet in person because, I've met a ton of people on Instagram, Discord, so it's surreal, definitely surreal.
I was about to say, you got a crew
this
with
moment
you
right
here.
now,
Everybody traveled here.
It couldn't have lined up better.
This is so awesome. Look, you brought a whole show with you to the city, so thank you for that. Yes. As someone who's in the city, I'm going to try to make it out to the show. It's going to be so awesome just to see that, but I love to get this started with just how you got started. I want to know, like, how did you get into music? Like, what made you know you could sing? I feel like, did you wake up one day and go, oh, that note sounds good? Like, how did you become a singer?
Yeah, so run it back to the age of 7 years old.
Okay.
Like when you're at family gatherings and then there's like a certain room for like the cousins, where it's like all the grown folk be like doing grown folk things and they're like, go over there. Mm-hmm. It's basically like that where like my cousins would just be huddled in like a room, usually in New York because my grandparents are from New York, and holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, anything, we would just be in a room trying to entertain ourselves. And what would usually happen is like the boys would be playing the video games, playing the Guitar Hero, the PSP, like all of that.
Man,
and
that's
then
a time period
me
right there.
And my little cousin, shout out Amanda, we would just make up anything and everything that we could to entertain ourselves. So we would make up songs a lot, and what we would do is we would pick a topic and then we would just improv. At the time I didn't know
freestyle singing.
Yeah, I didn't know what improv was at all, but a lot of our topics would pertain to the things that we were interested in, like Disney princesses, Barbies, Pokemon, anything like that. And I remember one day I wrote a song, or came up with a song themed around Beauty and the Beast. And when I finished singing it, my boy cousin, who like normally wouldn't pay attention to us, was like, he turned around and he was like, wait, he's like, did you make that up? And I was like,
he's like, well, you not reading that?
I was like, I mean, I didn't plan it, so I guess I did. I just took the thoughts in my head and I just put them into song. And he was like, wow, that's like really cool. Like, that's a really like dope skill. I've never seen someone do that before. And I was just like, all right, like, maybe this is something that I can do. And then as I grew older, it kind of fell into writing. I love writing. Writing was my first love before like songwriting or song creation, even singing. So then jump to a couple years later, I started to learn piano. I was only in it for like a year, by the way. My brother and I, like, we're over it. So basically, but I still knew like the melodies and what sounded good. Yeah. So basically what I would do is like I would write songs and then I would press keys, but I didn't know chords or anything like that. So I literally would take like nail polish and I would paint the keys to remember the
like,
chords.
I need this one, then this one,
like, this is how I can remember it. So I'm not classically trained at all. But yeah, that's basically how it happened. It was basically just from a young age, and I abandoned that for a while, just because, not necessarily because it wasn't deemed as cool or whatever. But when you're like middle school, high school, and you're just like, I just want to fit in. Like, I just want to blend.
Yeah, instead of like pushing the barrier.
I want to blend. It's like I want to entertain myself and like feel fulfilled, but not in a way that brings like too much attention. Yeah. To where it's like, oh, what is this person doing?
It's like, oh,
that's
the girl with the SoundCloud. Like, you didn't want that kind of as the signal for a while.
I was just about to mention, like, it makes me think back to like rappers like who like hand out mixtapes in like middle school and high school, and
it takes a lot of
everyone's like
confidence.
everyone's like, who's this dude, like that, or like who's this girl, like that was my worst fear. So I think I abandoned it for a while, but it was actually the pandemic where I was in college when 2020 hit. I was in my sophomore year, and I was involved in cheerleading, heavily involved in cheerleading, and just heavily involved in my schoolwork as well. And, you know, Amanda and even, like, Hannah, some people in the audience, like, can kind of remember, like, college during that time. It was, like, we were just in this routine, and then it was just ripped from us, like a lot of people, like, during 2020. And I just found myself, like, not knowing, like, what to do with myself, so much to the point where, like, I was super anxious, you know, like, I would isolate myself a lot. I mean, yeah, self-isolation, but it just felt like mentally like I needed something.
It was like there's nothing stimulating my time or my brain
I needed
anymore.
something to work towards that I could be proud of, and cheer did that for me for a lot of years. And yeah, I was like, I need something. And then I don't know if other people can relate to this, but I feel like in the pandemic times, like we were brought back to things that fueled like our inner child, whether that was like gem painting. I did a lot of gem painting in 2020. Just art in general. I feel like it filled a void of like control. I think specifically, like I just felt like I had no control over anything in my life, and I feel like that's your music kind of filled that.
Man,
so,
okay.
Yeah,
so
it was
music
really
kind of brought that control back.
Yeah, it was pandemic times that really did it. And then from there, when I started up my Instagram. I remember I had like probably like 25 followers or something. And I was also a huge Brockhampton stan, as some people in the audience might be aware. And I had like a really great phase of that in like, you know, the 2016, 17. And I submitted, this Brockhampton fan page was doing like a spotlight for independent artists, and I submitted this EP that no longer is on streaming called For Autumn. I put that up, and then Lucas, shout out Lucas, at Gaptooth Lucas. We have some Lucas fans in the audience. Stream, Pure Imagination stream, Pretty Bitch stream, all of it. He was like the first person, like literally the first person to see or acknowledge like anything that I had been doing, because it was still so early on. I really just had my family following me, and I remember he reposted that EP. Yeah. And from there I was connected with such a powerful web of creatives. Like still I can't even like believe it, like Zach Voss, who's in the audience, you know, like Dallas James, you know, Sylvan, all of these people who just like are powerhouses, and I couldn't feel like more lucky to have
so
them around.
awesome.
So that's basically, that catches you up to speed.
You caught me up perfectly. Look, I didn't even have to ask my extra questions.
I know.
You answered
I probably
them in
answered.
there.
I probably
No, that's awesome. Because
look,
I think the only thing that you didn't answer within there, and the only thing that I'm super curious about, is what are some of the inspirations for what your sound became? Because you said that, you know, you were doing this at a young age. It seems like the inspiration was, you know, the movies and all these other things, or Beauty and the Beast. But then, like, how did you eventually get to what your sound is? Because you have a very unique sound. It's very awesome. I love the way it's mixed. I love the like beat selection.
Appreciate it.
It's not like something I could like quite compare. So like, how did you get there?
Yeah, I think I would describe it definitely as a melting pot. I owe a lot of like just like musically, like sonically, lyrically, like just a lot of all those influences to my parents. Yeah.
A lot of different music in the crib?
Yeah, so throw it back to, I'd say like the early 90s when my parents were growing up. My parents grew up in New York City. They grew up in Washington Heights, which is way, way uptown. It's a huge Hispanic community. I think it's one of the largest Dominican communities like in the country, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
Don't quote me, but it feels like it.
I'm Dominican. So yeah, they grew up with a lot of Spanish, immigrant households, you know, just Spanish music all day long. And my dad actually took an interest to DJing when he was really young. And he was actually a part of a little DJ clan that would kind of go around and just play anywhere that anyone wanted them, basically.
That's so freaking dope.
So yeah, and through that, that's actually how my parents met. My dad DJ'd my mom's Sweet 16, and that's how they met. He was setting up, and my mom had funded this party like all by herself, and yeah, she was kind of just like, oh, and they met. And yeah, so from like the DJ scene, they loved going around playing sets, and they also loved going to record stores. And there was this one specific record store in Washington Heights where my dad would just go in. He would literally just go in, pick a random record, buy it, and just go home, listen to it
that
front to
so
back.
Bold.
Yeah, and it's actually crazy because my twin brother, Brandon, shout out Brandon, he does the exact same thing. He goes into record shops, literally, like, just will blindly...
Not even based off
not
cover
even
art?
genre, not even anything. I literally saw it the other day.
There's no parameters. It's just
we were at this record store in Hoboken, and he literally just blindly picks one, goes home, listens to it front to
Maybe
back.
That's how you really find new music.
Yeah. So basically, long story short, a lot of these record stores had a lot of European records, so a lot of like Kraftwerk, you know, like the Strokes, like a lot of just things that they weren't like necessarily like brought up on.
Yeah.
And from there, they were just like, what is this? Like, what is all this music? Like, you know, and like a ton of like alternative artists. My dad was telling me about this show that used to be on MTV called 120 Minutes. And it was on like a while back, and that's how he first found out about like Kate Bush and like all of those alternative artists.
So it's just like that's like kind of underground for the time period.
Yeah. So he's bringing these records home, and like his parents were like, "What is this? Like, we don't know what this is."
Who are these people screaming on your?
But he was like, "This is cool." So, and I think, you know, when he had us, he kind of always kept that, and I feel like a lot of people can agree. Like, I don't know, like specifically growing up, like I feel like you get exposed to a lot of music in the backseat. Yeah. Like whether it's like road trips or anything like that. Can't change
the song, so I gotta listen to it.
My dad is an aux warlord in the best way. He is the
it's
aux
like, bro, if you're in my car, you're not gonna play music.
And honestly, when I'm 4 years old, I'm not about to reach in the front and be like, "Hey, give me that."
Like, Pops,
I'm
put
like,
this Barney CD in, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, let me put you on. I'm like, I got Kids Bop. So he would play a lot of alternative music, specifically one band that really sticks with me, Arcade Fire. I saw them recently.
That's awesome.
At Barclays Center. Just like the Funerals album, like that's like super just important to me. So there's that alternative influence from my dad, and then my mom, she didn't really venture out to like the more like alt side. She kind of stuck with like the Hispanic music, so like a lot of Marc Anthony, a lot of like Juan Luis Guerra. Sorry, my Spanish flopping, but so a lot of that, and then she also loves like the divas as well. So like Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, like big all that. So she's just bumping that, tones. Like you knew like it was gonna be a day of music. Like you just wake up at like 7 a.m. and she's already cleaning the house. Yeah,
like Saving All My Love by Whitney is on.
Yeah, Mariah's
like, we're cleaning
bumping
today.
Or like she loves J-Lo too. I mean, she just loves like, you know, anyone who's just super pop or super diva. Beyonce as well. So I think through that is kind of like the melting of like the alt influence, and then also kind of like the pop diva influence as well. Yeah. And I love meshing those two things together. You know, because it's just like, I feel like I like kind of like that pop kind of like cute, but I also like to be a little weird. I feel like that describes me. Like I like being cute, but I also am a little bit weird. Weird and slightly
I feel
so.
I kind of feel what you're saying. How do you develop that into a sound? So like I guess adding that like poppy feel and then the quote unquote weird feel together, like, because I mean when I came in on the music, like I remember hearing the Nocturnal. Hopeful Nocturnal, yes. And I remember hearing songs on there and just kind of being like, how do you even do that for this beat? Or like, how did you hear that within this song? Like, how did you kind of get to that mesh together? Like, was that a lot of like just looking at every single kind of beat you could to get there? Yeah,
I think I've like always kind of been in love with like kind of like those heavy hitting beats. Like I love a drum. Like I love when a drum just like hits you, like
you can feel it, like you have your headphones in and you're like, I'm the drum.
Yeah, but then also balancing it with like just like funny stuff. Like I know like there's a track on Hopeful Nocturnal called Rare Cereal Toy where I literally just have a phone call in the middle of it and I'm just like, it's literally just a fake phone call with myself and I'm basically just talking about like, hey girl, like, you know, I like this person but like they don't like me back, but like it's okay, I'm gonna cast a love spell on them and it's about to like hit them, I'm about to like do my you know, witchcraft or whatever, but it's like, yeah, so
how do those moments like hit you in like the recording process? Like, are you like the song's done and you're listening back and you're like, that needs a phone call?
Yeah, I was like, it needs a little bit of me. It needs a little bit of me not taking myself so seriously. Because I think the second that I start to like be very serious about it and I'm like, okay, this needs to sound like this, like, or we're throwing it out, like we're not going, or like when I'm really hard on myself, and I'm sure a lot of artists can relate to that, it's like it automatically just doesn't become fun anymore. So yeah, a lot of just inserting like parts of me. I know Gracie's interlude on Hopeful Nocturnal is literally just me talking, so it's not even like a song, it's more like spoken word. And then I also like bringing in other people. That's like my favorite thing in the world, is just bringing in other artists. And
like,
I feel
what
like,
can you bring to this? It's
yes.
like I put my whole thing on it. What can you put on it?
Yeah, so it's like, and I feel like with Lucas and just like a lot of the artists that I'm surrounded by, like they love that too. And I just love that sense of community of being like, yeah, this is mine, but like I also want to give it to you. I want you to put your piece on it so that it can be ours, you know? And it's just like, I feel like sometimes it's like some artists like may be like weary of doing that, like giving other people the mic. And I think that's just like my favorite thing ever. Like I know there's on Opalescent, which is my second album, there's
we're definitely going to talk about that one.
Yeah, there's a song called Monet, and it's literally just Monet speaking her mind. And it's like a full 3 minutes of her just speaking her mind, set to like this really kind of quirky ambient beat. And it's really like, yeah, it's like my favorite. It's my favorite thing because it tells a story and it ties everything together in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own.
Yeah, it's like taking the time to explain that would be so much harder than it would be to just be like, hey, here's my mind, essentially. Yeah. Like, these are my friends talking, these are people that I'm collaborating with, and you're getting the whole picture.
Yeah, so I think, and even like the song Monet, like that very much influenced the trajectory of like the second half of that album. Because Opalescent, like it starts off very, if you go back and listen to it, it starts off very like I don't need nobody, like I'm a baddie, and then it just kind of goes into like I'm suffering and like
wait, hold
not
on.
saying like, you know, we all like personally go through, but like our own things, and like I most certainly have, but I think like just like almost like it's like I see like my projects as like different chapters, all a part of like one thing, and it's like that spoken word really just like kind of brings it into like the second half, or like the next chapter, which is like maybe more sad than like, you know, the previous chapter in Opalescent. But yeah, so definitely looping people in, having them speak, having them, you know, tell their story a little bit, and then also just not taking myself seriously. So I feel like those two things.
We touched on it a little bit, but I want to dive back into Opalescent here so we can get a little bit deeper. Now, one of my favorite tracks is Saturn's Rings. I love the music. I love the beat. I don't know how you found the pocket that you found, but it's just so awesome. And I love just like even the lyrics of it. Everything goes together so well. And I feel like Opalescent itself, the entire project goes together that well. So like, what's the theme here, and like, how are you trying to convey it with this project?
Yeah, so I feel like in this project, it was definitely more of a timeline, more of a story. Yeah, and it was kind of during a time where I just wanted to just zone out and see what the product of that was.
Just kind of give it all to the art and see what you get back.
Yeah, for Saturn's Rings specifically, so a reoccurring trend with my projects so far is I've produced every single track but one.
I had no clue that you produced all the music. That's awesome.
I appreciate it. So Saturn's Rings was produced by Noah Murray, who Zach knows. Yeah, sure. Zach put me on, and he actually produced New York, New York on Hopeful Nocturnal as well.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about how you got the part 2 of that, because I love connecting projects. I love that.
So yeah, that one specifically, it just is kind of just like me, just like being like showing myself, being like, here I am, because I feel like Hopeful Nocturnal, I was quite shy. I feel like I am quite a shy person by nature, at least like initially. But yeah, I feel like Opalescent was more like, let me just lay it all on the table, to be honest. Like, I'ma just be real and be honest and like see where this takes me. I also see it as like, like a maturity and like a development from Hopeful Nocturnal. Because even in like the album covers, like I look back and I'm like, I look so young, like in Hopeful Nocturnal. I literally look like a baby, and then like the thematically, like I love incorporating like the colors as well. So like purple was kind of more like, I guess like, hi, like I'm Grace, like I hope you like me, like please like me. And then the pink is kind of like, hi, I'm Grace, like I'm more sure of myself. If you like it, cool. If you don't, that's also cool. But so like dope. This is what I love doing. And then, yeah, like I mentioned before, the song Monet kind of separates the two parts.
And was the song made, like, was Monet made before you created the second half of the project?
It was actually one of the last tracks.
Okay, so it helped you to denote where to put the track listing.
Yes, it kind of just, like, I was like, I kind of want this, like, as a centerpiece.
So,
and then,
like, you know where the turn
almost,
happens.
like, unintentionally, I guess, it kind of just, like, separated the two feelings. And I feel like I didn't do that as much on Hopeful Nocturnal. I think Hopeful Nocturnal was kind of just like a curated, like what am I saying?
I know what you're going for, but I don't know what it is.
Sleep, y'all. You know? Kind of a melting pot, and then this was more of a story.
Awesome. How long did it take you to create this project, Opalescent?
Yeah, so Opalescent, I started working, so Hopeful Nocturnal dropped on July 15th, so it had its 1-year anniversary recently, July 15th, 2022, and then literally July 16th, I started working on Opalescent.
No time off.
So, yeah.
You're promoting Hopeful Nocturnal.
Yeah,
and
literally,
I'm
just running on my own, like my own one-woman show schedule. I'm, like, rolling out, like, the promo of like what I can come up with, and then also just working on songs.
Yeah, and you go crazy on these promos too. Like it's not like these are half baked.
I was talking to Monet, and just like, you know, I think Zach in the car, and I was like, I love a grid. I love for promo. I'm like, when
you did the Opalescent grid and like just having like people guessing what the song would be based on the title, I was like, this is genius.
I love looping people in. Like I think I will always like find a way to incorporate people and roll out. But yeah, I love a grid, and so basically I just kept working. And then I think around February 10th, Opalescent dropped. So it was from July to February. And
you gave them about 6 months, and then you were like, here's another one.
Yeah, and I was just like, you know what? I like these tracks, so might as well. I'm like, what's the point? Like in, you know,
what's the point on holding on to them?
I'm breathing. Luckily, God bless. I'm like, let's just put her out. Let's see. So,
that's what's up. That's so awesome that you just kind of like, you were like, well, here's the project, so you can have it. And I mean, like, in addition to that, like, you already have another single out. Like, and I mean, that was February. You have more music out now. Yeah. Like, before we do get off of that project, I do want to talk about that last track, NYNY, which is part 2, because the first one is on the other project. Yeah. What's the link here? Like, are you going to keep doing this? Is this like a theme thing?
I think with New York, New York, it started off as a completely fabricated story of just like, I don't know. I think in Hopeful Nocturnal era, I just was like, I just loved the idea of like a love that you like fight for some reason. Like, I feel like for some songs, like the things don't even happen to me. Like I literally just be making a
It's like I got a good story.
And I'm just like, I just run with it. So I feel like that was one of the things where I was like, it'd be so like cute if like I just wrote a scenario of like maybe like a long distance love that like the setting is always New York, like that's almost like the middle ground, like the sanctuary. That sounds so dramatic, like just
no,
like
no, I'm loving it. Like I can see a
like,
rom-com about
like,
this.
Yeah,
it's
because it's like
good.
New York, like there's like New York is magical, like it's beautiful. It's like I feel like even for our friends, like that's like where we first met, like my music friends, and that's where like all my friends like we go and we just have a good time and just explore. So I was like, I just want to create a narrative of like having New York be the meeting ground, and then kind of just like that the line New York needs you, like
yeah, because I was like that plays right into the NY
it's almost
too.
like,
so it's like
it plays into the idea of like New York is like, you know, one of the most densely populated places. Everyone goes there with a dream or an intention, and it's like in a city with so much, it's like I only see you type of thing. Like it's like, you know, it's like I don't know, it's just something that I come up with. And then I think in the part 2 of it, it kind of expands on that. And then I also looped in Lucas into that as well. There was a FaceTime call that we had, FaceTime live. It was Instagram live. It was Instagram live where we thanks, Mona. It was an Instagram live,
live studio audience
where we were just talking about nothing. Like it honestly has nothing to do with the narrative, but we were just talking and he was just making me laugh so much. And I was like, you know what? I just appreciate you, and I appreciate like these friendships so much. So I was like, I'm just gonna throw you in there. And I feel like, yeah, both of the New Yorks are just like about love and New York and, you know, meeting people halfway and coming together. Because, like, yeah, we also all met up in Brooklyn recently. Lucas did a concert. Shout out Printer Mag as well. Awesome. They hosted, like, a showcase thing. And we were all able to meet. So that was, like, one of the best days as well. So it's just, like, a salute to New York.
That's so dope. I love that. I love that. Like also just being a through line on your project as well. Now you mentioned a little bit in there, like that some of these are just like stories that you write and then you turn them into songs. Is that your writing process? Like what does it take to make a Your Friend Grace song?
Yeah, I would say it's like cut clean down the middle of like real stuff and just made up stuff. Okay. Like I think a lot of Opalescent, like besides New York was very much real. Mm-hmm. And specifically with Opalescent, it was like the contents were happening in real time, whereas Hopeful Nocturnal was like a recollection of like things that had happened to me in like my entire life. Because obviously like Hopeful Nocturnal was like my first project. Mm-hmm. So it was almost like recalling memories for Hopeful Nocturnal, whereas Opalescent was like living through memories. Like, yeah, living through like the events that were occurring. So it made it feel like much more, like I felt extremely sensitive when I put Opalescent out because it was like me, like it was so like fresh. And even I know for Hopeful Nocturnal, we had like a listening party over Discord, and that was like the first time that I talked to like any of these great people. It was through a listening party for Pure Imagination. Hey, you guys
want to hear my new project?
Yeah, and then for Opalescent, I specifically was like, I kind of don't want to do a listening party because these tracks are very personal to me. Yeah,
it was like, let me just give them to you and then we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, it's essentially just me pouring like just everything that I have, even like the things that I just had chose to ignore or just kind of push down up until that point. So when it dropped, I literally just like sat in my room in the dark and just listened to it all the way through, and I was just like, this is like a release. But it's like,
say, did it feel cathartic?
Yeah,
like,
it was
like, oh, it's off my shoulders.
It was like, I literally like felt like it was like a release that I never like experienced before. Like one where it's just like out of body experience type thing. Like just the fact that like it was out and like anyone could listen to it. Like literally like even people that I ultimately maybe like never will meet, or you know how like the algorithm, you know, you might have
it's
some
like somebody
people,
could end up here.
And like I look at my like Spotify for artists, and I'm like there's some countries. I'm like, yo, I'm like we gotta meet up. But yeah, so that's what I love about just music, is just like it's like I think it's like one of the bravest things you can do. Just like put like literally like your heart and your organs and everything out there for people that ultimately like you might never meet, but also like you also might touch them like at the same
it's like
time.
that might be what they need to hear.
Yeah, it's like
they
even like think of like
that.
some of y'all's favorite artists, and it's like if you were to ever meet them in person, you're like you don't understand.
It's like you don't know
like,
that song. That song got me through.
And it kind of
this.
sucks because it's like ultimately they might never understand, but it's like you still feel that connection of like this got me through like this breakup, or like this got me through like this transition in my life, or like I was I felt really alone during this time in my life, and this just like served a specific purpose for me that might ultimately be different for like how it felt for you to make it.
Yeah, so it's like you gave all of this and you showed your like bare like emotions, and I was like, I'm here for it, like that's the best part about the music.
Or even like certain songs where it's like you're like I feel like especially like working on songs, you tend to like you hear it like 50 billion times.
Oh yeah, like it might lose meaning, or it might be like,
by the time you put it out, you're like I've heard this song like literally like more times than I can count, but it still like has a different meaning to everyone. They're like, yo, like this is like
that's not even what I meant.
Crazy, like this is or they have like different interpretations and like things like that. Another thing is like sometimes people will be like lyrics. They're like, we need the lyrics because sometimes I don't be enunciating, or I be hitting that reverb. I'm like, y'all know. So it's like, oh, I thought you said this, and I'm like, I'm like, I didn't say that, but it kind of would have been fire if I did. But
that's what I'm saying. So you leave it to interpretation.
Yeah,
maybe
like,
some of them you gotta leave the lyrics.
Yeah,
off.
I'm like, I low key, want you to still think it's that,
It's like if that's what you got from it, like run with that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm like, own it. So yeah.
Now from Opalescent over to your new single Near. How, like, what's the growth? What's the difference? Is this just like a Lucy that you had from back then, or is this a new one?
I think Near was just me playing around with, I feel like everything that I've kind of cultivated and learned thus far. It's definitely a Lucy. I feel like it's more of like a, kind of like a gateway into what's to come.
Yeah.
I would say,
get ready, I got more of this on the way.
I think Harmony's Daughter also served that purpose. I think those were the two singles. I think I had a single, my very first single was called New York. So yeah, that was like my first single. I think I've had 3 singles total. I had Oh Well as well. R.I.P. Oh Well, I think that's gone. Yeah.
Some Oh Well fans in the crowd.
Yeah. So like, it was Harmony's Daughter was like the gateway from Hopeful Nocturnal to Opalescent, and then Near is also a gateway.
Okay, it's gonna be for the next one. Awesome.
Yeah, I connected with an artist the other day via Discord that was like I think it was Club Oro. Shout out Club Oro. They're in the Pigeons and Plains Discord. They were like, Grace is an album girl, and I was like, you know what? I was like, maybe I am. Like maybe I am a project girl. Like
hey. I'm not mad at it. I like whole projects. I like coherent art when it's all together.
Yeah, I almost see it as like a portfolio of just like a period in like one's life, so it's like.
I mean, if you have the ability to do the output, because I mean, you're producing the tracks, you're writing the music, and you're doing it in under 8 months to get us another project. I'm here for it. I'll keep listening.
Yeah, thank you. I was talking to Zach. I was like, I'm also like mixing is the next hurdle. But I'm like a production. I like the production. The mixing, it's another level checkpoint. Like I'm at a checkpoint. I need to get to the next level. But yeah.
Now, another question that I like to ask people who use their creativity, especially as much as you say you produce, you say you're writing, you're doing projects so quickly. What do you do to take care of your creativity? Like when you need that recharge, is it the crafts that you need in between, the naps? Like what makes it so you can produce at this high level you produce on?
Kind of ties into like, those intermissions with games. I would say go outside.
Okay.
Definitely
you gotta
go
actually
outside.
Go touch some grass.
I think if I'm like working on something and say it's like not working the way I want it to, like I'm like dude, just go outside. 10 minutes. See some trees, smell some grass, see some dogs, come back and you'll be good. and it's never failed.
That always helps you get through like those
or
ruts
like
or
or
anything?
phone a friend too, like even FaceTime in person. Just to talk, not even about like music stuff. It could be about anything.
Yeah, so like if you find yourself at like one of those like writer's block moments, you might just be like, hey, what are you doing today?
Yeah.
And then just like need a random conversation.
Yeah, or like talk to my parents too, because like a lot of the time when I'm recording something, like the water starts running and I'm like, hey, who's doing that?
It's like,
or
I need crazy silence, 20 minutes.
Or like my brother runs downstairs, or like my cat's scratching at my door, like trying to get in. Shout out Luna. Shout out Luna. Best cat. So yeah, just little normal things. Normal things help kickstart creative process again, for sure.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. I always wonder how people, you know, like can produce at such a high level and like keep that going. But I feel like, yeah, like going outside or just like having a day as if you're not the creative that you're trying to be in that moment.
Yeah, allowing yourself a break, because I feel like there are like sometimes it's like bro, we gotta push this album out in 3 nights or else we're trash. Like we suck. Like we might as well just pack up.
You might as well quit.
Yeah, and it's like, no, you can have like you can have time.
It's like, it's perfectly fine if it drops one day later. Like no one will be mad.
Yep.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome, kind of taking that pressure off. Yeah. Now, Grace, what do you have up next? Like, what's the things that they could be looking out for if they're watching now?
So up next, definitely expect some things. Yeah. I would just say I love albums. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm picking up on hints here.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love albums, like I said before.
Another thing that I love to do on the show is every single episode I love to outro with a track that the artist can put people onto. You can give somebody else's song, you can do your song, but like, what do you want to put them onto right now?
Okay. I would say I would say we were saying what? All right, I'm going to throw myself into the mix.
Okay.
We were saying Think I Just Might, so Stream Venus by Your Friend Grace.
Hey, that's what's up. Well, you're hearing that play out right now. Thank you so much, Your Friend Grace, for coming on the show. Make sure you're playing the show for your mama, your daddy, your grandma, your sister, your cousin, your baby daddy, your dog. Play it for your fish. Put it in your pocket and just walk around and turn the volume down. Give me a stream today and go play some of Your Friend Grace's music. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for
See you all
having me.
next week.
All right.
Deuces.
Bye.